So what I like to do after I've gone through all the AI pieces here, after saving, is I like to then go back in this way and fill these out. So I go from right to left because the setting is the hardest for me to do, so I do it first because when I've read the scene multiple times, everything here just blends into the scene and I forget to look for these. So for my particular order, I like to do these first. So notes is just a section where you can just type notes. If I was editing this for a client, this would be where I would put scene notes. I would also give a summary letter separately to the client, but if I had notes that I wanted to tell the client about this particular scene, I would enter them here. And then I would also use the track changes and comments. So this is the cool thing about Fictionary, you can do all of this here. I can write a comment. And then I can add and remove things. And it will show up when I export this to the client. The client does have to have a Fictionary account. They need to have a Story Coach client account, and they can have the first, I believe it's 7 days free, but after that they will have to pay for it. So that's another thing to think about for Fictionary. When I edit, I give my clients that 7-day free access to make the changes, make the revisions, or if they want to export out the document and export out the scene notes and all of that, or whatever they want to do, they have the initial 7 days free, but after that they need to get either a month subscription or a yearly subscription to Fictionary in order to use the features. That's how this works. I do sometimes use it just to make notes for myself. For example, here I was saying how I wanted to make sure this entry hook happens in the beginning, but I'm seeing what happened to Dr. Quinn is actually probably more here towards the middle where she's calling and getting dead air. So maybe I might make a note here and say entry hook. So I remember to come back here and see if I can revise this scene to make this appear earlier in the scene. So that's usually what I use the track changes for myself. And then here, you know, I can write entry hook, revise since it's in the middle of the scene instead of in the beginning. So that's an example of what I would use this for myself. Alright, so now going to setting, I'll show you how I fill this out. So location, where does this take place? This takes place, I could see here, her dorm. So Aubrey's dorm. Aubrey's dorm. So that's fine. Date and time, we already see that here, so it's, and then we also see April. So April at 11:42 p.m. Object, so object is there any specific object here that has some kind of importance that we'd want to keep track of? I would say coffee. Coffee comes up a lot in this book, so I might want to keep track of my use of the word coffee and you know how she uses that. She calls it different things here like GPA saving liquid and things like that, so it might have some kind of significance, it may not, but it's good to keep track. Alright, so sights. So sights is, you know, what does she see? Is there anything she sees? I think later on in this, at her father's condo, and she's looking at the mess that has been left behind, there's a lot of sights here, so I'd probably put those in. I'm not going to put all of them in right now, because I don't want to have this go on too long, but that's where you would put sights. And same with smells. Does she smell something? Maybe she smells coffee or coffee aroma or whatever it is, you know. This is just to make sure that you're using the 5 senses in your scenes. Not every scene has to include all of these, but it's good practice to have at least some in every one of your scenes. So same here, sounds, paper shredding. Emotional impact, this is just looking at whether the location this takes place in has enough emotional impact. Does the scene take place in a location that has the most possible emotional impact for that scene? In this case, I would say yes, because it takes place in what is now where Aubrey considers home, and she gets a call from her father, and that sets her off to go then to his place, which after he goes missing, that's a very strong emotion-centered place because that's where he was when he went missing, and that's the place where she saw him the most. So I would say yes. Location split, this just means does the scene take place across just one location or multiple locations? In this case, yes, because it starts in her dorm room, then she's on the street heading to her father's condo, and then by the end she's looking through her father's condo. So it takes place across 3 locations, so yes. Weather, we can see here it's raining heavily. Raining heavily. And the weather is a great way to show emotion, to show conflict and tension. It's a great way to increase tension. The whole show versus tell, weather is a good way to do that. This is a good reminder to check the weather and see if it's adding something to your story. Taste, again, that's pretty self-explanatory, and same with touch. Does she run her fingers along the spine of books on her father's bookshelf? Yes, she does. Okay, so that's setting. What I like to do is I go setting and then character and then come back to plot.